I know what you did before you clicked on this. You scrolled past at least 3 other divine letters today. Maybe 4. Maybe more than that. They are everywhere now. Every channel. Every feed. Archangel Michael has a message for you. God is speaking directly to your situation. Heaven sent this specifically for you today. You have seen those words so many times that part of you has learned to keep scrolling. Even when something inside you hesitates. Even when some quiet part of your spirit says, wait. I am not going to tell you that this letter is different because every channel says that. I am going to show you that it is different. And the difference is sitting right here on this table. I want you to look at this envelope. Really look at it. It is physically sealed. And what is inside it was not typed up 5 minutes before this recording began. What is inside was prepared in advance, sealed inside before this day started by someone who already knew what this letter was going to say. Because inside this envelope there is not only a USB drive containing the letter, there are also printed photographs, real, physical, color photographs that were selected, printed, and sealed in here before I sat down in front of this camera. And there are written prediction cards, actual printed text cards, sealed in this envelope, each one containing a specific statement about your specific situation that was written down before this recording existed. Why does that matter? Because any channel can tell you that what you are about to hear is divinely timed and personally sent, but not every channel can reach into a sealed envelope, pull out a photograph that was printed before this video began, and show you something that speaks directly to the exact thing the letter just said. That is not something you can fake with timing. That is either real or it is the most elaborate coincidence you have ever witnessed. I have opened a lot of these envelopes. I have held up a lot of these photographs, and I will tell you what I have come to believe after doing this long enough to know the difference between something constructed by human effort and something that carries a signature that no human being put there. This one is different, not because I am telling you it is, but because of what is going to happen in the next 50 minutes when I reach into this envelope one photograph at a time, and you watch with your own eyes how what is printed on those images lines up with what this letter says at the exact moment it is said. This is where the letter lives. I am going to insert it into the display right here and let it run as you read. I will stay right here with you. And at specific points throughout this letter, I am going to stop, reach back into this envelope, and pull out what was placed there for that exact moment. A photograph, a written prediction, something that was sealed in before this began. 12 more items are still inside this envelope. By the time we reach the end of this letter, every one of them will have been shown to you, and by the end, you will not be asking whether what you received today was meant for you. You will know.
Something happened in heaven today, before you woke up this morning, before your feet touched the floor, before your first cup of coffee, before the familiar weight of this season pressed itself back across your shoulders, the way it does every single morning now, long before any of that. There was a meeting, a gathering in the courts of the Most High God that you were not present for in body, but whose entire purpose was you. I was there, I stood in the place where the plans of eternity are spoken into existence, where the affairs of human lives are deliberated by one whose understanding has no ceiling and whose love has no floor. And what was decided in that meeting concerning your life, your heart, and the specific situation you have been carrying for far too long in silence is what I have been commissioned to deliver to you right now, today, in this precise moment that you mistakenly believed was ordinary. There is no ordinary moment when heaven moves. My name is Michael, Prince of the Host, Messenger of the Covenant, Warrior of the Most High God. I have crossed the boundary between the celestial and the earthly world before, when the situations of God's beloved demanded it. And today, your situation demanded it. So here I am, not at a distance, not speaking to you in vague terms designed for any woman in any season. I am here for you, specifically, with a message that carries the seal of the throne room upon it. And I command you to receive it with every open and willing part of your spirit, because what I am about to unfold before you will require something of you in return, and the requirement will be worth everything it asks of you. Stay. Do not go. What is coming in this message is the answer you have been reaching toward across a span of weeks, or months, or perhaps years of persistent, sometimes aching, sometimes barely holding on prayer. You deserve to receive the full answer. So remain with me until the very last word, because the piece you need most may be positioned at the very end. And I will guarantee that you will not wish you had stayed longer. This is not a suggestion. This is an instruction from the one who sent me. Stay. Before this letter goes any further, there is something you must see. Something that was physically placed inside the envelope that carried this message to you today. Dorothy is going to reach into that envelope right now and remove the first photograph. This image was printed before this day began. It was prepared in advance by those who already knew what this message contained, and it was sealed inside the envelope to show you, without question, that what you are receiving is not improvised. It is not accidental. It was planned. Look at this photograph carefully. Let it become a physical anchor for everything this letter is about to declare. I will begin where this truly begins. Not with you. Not with the man whose presence fills the unspoken spaces of your prayers. Not even with the complication that has been causing your heart to carry more weight than it was designed to carry alone. I will begin at the source of all things. Because when you understand what the Most High was doing before the difficulty arrived, you will understand the difficulty completely differently. And that different understanding, that is where your freedom lives. Long before this season found you, long before this chapter of confusion and heaviness was even a thought in the enemy's mind, beloved daughter, the Lord made a decision about your life, not a passive decision. Not the kind of distant, general intention that exists for everyone in equal measure. I mean a specific, deliberate, named decision about the woman you are and the story he was determined to write through your existence. He chose you. He did not scan the landscape of souls and settle on you for lack of better options. He did not assign destiny to you the way someone assigns a task because it needs doing. He chose you with the intentionality of a master craftsman who knows precisely what material he is selecting and exactly why. The woman he chose when he chose you is a woman of extraordinary capacity. I have watched you. I have been assigned to watch you. And I need you to understand what I mean by extraordinary capacity, because it is not the word the world would use if it were describing you from the outside. The world would notice your achievements, or your appearance, or your position, or your circumstances. I am speaking of none of those things. What I am describing when I declare extraordinary capacity is something that is only visible from the dimension in which I operate. It is the size and the quality of your soul, the depth of love you carry and have never been able to spend entirely, the faithfulness that lives in you like a river running beneath dry ground, invisible on the surface, but it has never stopped moving, not once, not even in your worst season. That woman is the one the Lord chose, and the story he is writing through her life is not finished, not even close to finished. Today is not the conclusion of your story. Today is the hinge, the turn, the place in the narrative where what has been hidden begins to be revealed, and what has been delayed begins to arrive. Before I release the full revelation of what I witnessed in the courts of heaven, today, I am going to walk with you through something first. I am going to name what this season has actually been like. Because the Lord is not a God who bypasses your experience on the way to the announcement. He steps into the experience first. He sits down in it with you, and he commands you to know that he has been sitting with you in this one. You woke up this morning carrying the familiar combination of hope and heaviness that has been your companion for longer than you would have chosen. There is a man. You know who he is. His name does not need to be spoken aloud for what I am saying to land precisely in the center of where it was aimed. The connection between your spirit and his is something that exists in a dimension that cannot be explained away by logic, cannot be dissolved by time, and cannot be made to look smaller than it is by the parts of your mind that have learned to manage expectations. But alongside that connection, there is a complexity, a complication that arrived uninvited and has not left when asked. Another presence, another woman whose position in his life right now has been feeding a specific kind of pain inside of you, a pain that is harder to carry than ordinary heartbreak, because it is laced with uncertainty. It is not a clean grief. It is the grinding kind, the kind that makes you question things you thought you knew, the kind that whispers its questions at 2 a.m, in the dark quiet of a bedroom where no one can witness you asking them. Has he truly forgotten what we are? Am I reading into things that were never there? Is she something to him that I cannot compete with? Has the door the Lord appeared to open simply closed? I am here today to answer every one of those questions with the full authority of what was decided in heaven this morning. And I declare to you now, the answer is not what the 2 a.m. version of your fear has been telling you. The answer is entirely different from that. But before I deliver it in full, I require something of you. I need you to exhale the breath you did not realize you were holding. I command you to set down. Just for the length of this message, the anxious effort of trying to figure all of this out on your own. You have been carrying the weight of solution seeking on top of the weight of the situation itself, and the Lord declares today, let me carry the solution seeking. Let me carry the strategy. Let me carry the outcome. Your only assignment right now is to receive what I have brought you. Can you do that? Then let us go deeper. Now, before this letter reveals what is happening in his heart, Dorothy is going to reach into that envelope and pull out the first written prediction card. This text was written and printed before this message was recorded. It was sealed inside that envelope without knowing who would watch this today. And yet, what it says will feel as though someone was already watching your situation before this day began. Dorothy, hold that card to the camera now. Read it aloud. Let the words land. I need to tell you about him, not to stir your emotions towards something that may feel fragile right now, but because the Most High specifically instructed me to paint the full picture of what is happening in this man's interior world, because you have been interpreting his behavior from the outside, and the outside does not tell the whole story. He is in a season of turbulence, not the dramatic kind that announces itself loudly, the quiet kind, the internal kind, the kind that lives in the space behind a man's eyes when he is sitting in a room full of people and yet feels fundamentally alone in the most important question of his existence. He is asking himself, what is real? He is asking himself what was placed in his life by genuine divine order, and what arrived through his own human wandering. And that question, daughter, that question is producing something in him that looks, from where you stand, like distance or uncertainty or confusion about you. But it is none of those things. What it actually is a man whose spirit is in the process of waking up. The Lord builds awakening the same way he builds the day, not all at once, not with a single blinding flash that leaves no room for adjustment. He builds it the way dawn builds, one gradual degree of light at a time, until the moment arrives when it is undeniably, unambiguously, irreversibly morning. That is what is happening in this man right now. The dawn is building in his spirit. And what he will see clearly when the full light arrives is something that is going to require him to make a reckoning with the truth he has been allowing himself to avoid. Because the truth is this: he knows. Somewhere beneath the layers of distraction and the noise of the other presence in his life, and the comfortable familiarity of what requires less courage to reach for, he knows what is real. He knows where the genuine weight lives. He knows whose name carries something different when it crosses his mind than any other name does. He knows that what exists between his spirit and yours was not constructed by circumstance or manufactured by wishful thinking. He knows it the way a person knows when they are standing on holy ground. Something in him goes still. Something becomes more serious. Something reaches up from the deepest part of him and declares without apology, "This matters. The enemy has been working to keep him from acting on what he knows. That is the nature of the assignment against this connection. Not to destroy the feeling, but to postpone the action, to keep him circling the truth without landing on it, to use the presence of this other woman as a fog machine, keeping the atmosphere between him and clarity murky enough that choosing what he knows requires more courage than he has been summoning. Today, the Lord declares that era is ending. The fog machine is being shut down, and what happens next in his heart is going to happen suddenly, without the gradual build-up that you might expect. Because the divine moments of clarity do not always arrive on a schedule. They arrive like the breaking of a fever. One moment it is there, and then, without announcement, it is gone. And in its place is the unmistakable, liberating, terrifying clarity of knowing what is true and what must be done about it. What was just described, the dawn breaking in a man's spirit, the fever of confusion finally breaking. Dorothy is now going to hold up the second photograph from that envelope. This image was not chosen randomly. It was selected to show you exactly what heaven sees when it looks at this man right now. Look at it. Study it. This is not art for decoration. This is a declaration printed on paper and placed in your hands on purpose. Now, the other woman. Listen to me carefully on this. I am going to speak about her in a way that is entirely different from how the enemy wants you to think about her. Because the enemy has been using your thoughts about her as a secondary tool in his arsenal against your peace. Every moment you have spent imagining her, measuring yourself against her, rehearsing comparisons between what she offers and what you offer, building narratives about why he might prefer her. Every one of those moments was a moment the enemy stole directly from your joy and your strength and your spiritual clarity. He designed it that way. She is not just a complication in the situation. She is bait for your mind. And today, the Lord is cutting that line. Here is what I am authorized to tell you about her role in this divine narrative. She represents what the scripture calls a snare of the fowler, not a woman of genuine relational assignment, but a strategically placed distraction designed to occupy the territory of a heart that was meant for something different. She has abilities that operate in the natural. She knows how to position herself. She knows how to create the appearance of ease and pleasure and uncomplicated companionship. She has studied what he responds to, and she presents those things deliberately. I am not saying this to condemn her as a person. I am saying it to expose the function she is serving in the enemy's plan, and to declare to you that the Most High sees that function clearly and is not impressed by it. What she does not have, beloved daughter, is the one thing that cannot be manufactured by human strategy, no matter how sophisticated it becomes. She does not have a covenant assignment over his life. She was not written into his story by the hand of the one who wrote the story. She arrived without divine authorization, and in the kingdom of the Most High, unauthorized assignments do not hold. They appear to hold for a season. They can look convincing for a time, but they carry within them the seed of their own dissolution. Because what is built outside of God's order cannot be sustained by God's power, and without His power sustaining it, it is only a matter of the right moment, the right revelation, the right sunrise of clarity in His Spirit. Before the entire construction of what she built around herself simply collapses. That moment is approaching. Today I declare it over this situation. The collapse of what was built without divine authorization is already in motion in the spiritual realm. The cracks are forming where she cannot see them. The foundation she constructed on appearances is beginning to feel the pressure of the truth that it was never designed to bear. And in the days and weeks ahead, this man will begin to feel something change in how her presence registers to his spirit. Where there was once a sense of ease, he will begin to feel a hollowness. Where there was once the appeal of the uncomplicated, he will begin to sense something missing that he cannot quite name at first. And then he will name it. He will name it by recognizing it as the opposite of what he feels when his thoughts turn toward you. Do not leave this message now. What was just declared over that counterfeit assignment is only the first layer of what this letter was sent to deliver today. The next section contains something that the Lord specifically placed in this transmission for women who have been waiting longer than they planned, and what it reveals about the 3 watches of your season, about exactly where you are right now on the timeline of your breakthrough, will change the way you have been carrying every single day of this wait. If you leave before you hear it, you will leave without the most important part. Stay. Dorothy, reach into that envelope now and pull out the next prediction card. This one was placed in the envelope specifically to be shown at this point in the letter. After the truth about the other woman has been spoken, read it aloud. Hold it steady, because what is written on this card was written as a declaration long before you pressed play today, and it speaks directly to what was just declared over that unauthorized assignment in this man's life. Daughter, I want to take you somewhere different now. Away from the immediate drama of what is happening between 3 people in a present moment, and into the wider view. Because one of the things this season of waiting has done to your perspective is narrow it. Suffering compresses vision down to the immediate ache. It becomes hard to see past the pain of today to the purpose of the entire season. And the Lord commands me today to restore your wide-angle vision, to help you see this situation from the altitude from which He sees it, from heaven's altitude. Your story is not a story about a woman being delayed by an obstacle. It is a story about a woman being refined into the person who can fully carry what is coming. Those are radically different stories. The first one is a story of victimhood. The second one is a story of preparation. And the Lord says to you today, without hesitation, you are in the second story. You have always been in the second story. Every chapter that felt like setback was a chapter of construction. Every month that felt like nothing was moving was a month in which something essential was being built in you that the fulfillment needed to find ready. Think about what a furnace does. Not the furnace as a symbol of punishment, but the furnace as the instrument of transformation. When gold goes into the furnace, nothing is destroyed that belongs to the gold. Only the impurities leave. Only the things that were clinging to the gold but were not actually gold are consumed. And what emerges on the other side is not damaged gold. It is purer gold, more valuable, more beautiful, more capable of fulfilling the purpose for which gold exists. What the Most High has been doing in you through this prolonged and difficult season is furnace work. And today he declares, the work is nearly complete. The woman you were before this season began could not have carried what is coming with the grace and the wisdom and the unshakable rootedness that it will require. She was too much on the surface. Too much of her confidence was built on things that could shift. Too much of her peace depended on circumstances cooperating. But the woman you are becoming, through this fire, she is different. She has roots that go down into something that cannot be moved by anything the enemy throws. She has learned what it means to believe in the dark, which means she will never again mistake the presence of God for the comfort of circumstances. She knows the difference, and that knowledge is one of the most powerful things a woman of faith can carry into the next chapter of her life. The furnace, the gold, the fire that destroys only what does not belong. Dorothy is holding the next photograph from this envelope, and this one was placed here intentionally to show you what the Lord sees when he looks at what this season has been doing inside of you. Not damage, not reduction, purification. Take this photograph in completely, because the woman in this image is you. I must pause here, beloved daughter, and speak to a specific group of women who are watching this today. Because the Most High placed a weight on my heart for you, and I will not move past this moment without honoring it. There are women watching this today who are in the 7th decade of their lives and beyond. Women who have walked more of the road behind them than they can see ahead. Women for whom the question of love and partnership has been carrying a secondary ache alongside the primary one. The ache of wondering whether a woman at this season of life is still within the range of the miraculous, whether the divine romance of heaven, the kind that makes a life glow from the inside, is something that belongs to this chapter, or only to the younger chapters that came before. To you specifically, the Most High says this, and I deliver it with everything I have. Ruth did not receive her Boaz as a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. She received him as a widow, as a woman who had already buried grief and carried loss and crossed borders and chosen faithfulness over comfort when none of it seemed to be paying off in any visible way. She received him after the desert chapter. She received him when human logic would have suggested the time had passed. And the Lord who orchestrated that story is the same Lord who is orchestrating yours today. He did not change. He did not become less interested in the romantic stories of his daughters once they crossed a certain age. In fact, I will tell you something from my position in the spiritual realm. The love stories that the Most High writes in the later chapters of a woman's life carry a weight and a glory that the early chapter stories often cannot match. Because the woman who arrives at love after decades of depth, decades of growth, decades of hard and holy living, brings something to that love that youth alone cannot produce. She brings wisdom. She brings the kind of tenderness that has been through enough fire to become something unbreakable. She brings the capacity to recognize what is real, because she has held enough counterfeits to know the difference immediately. You are not late, beloved. The invitation is not closed. The Most High does not operate by human expiration dates. And today, he declares to the woman, who has wondered whether her season for this kind of love has passed. It has not. It has not even entered its fullest expression yet. What is coming for you contains dimensions of beauty and partnership and soul-level belonging that your younger self would not have been equipped to receive. This version of you is the version the Lord was building toward all along. And she is ready. What was just declared over the woman who wondered if her season had passed? Dorothy is holding the next written prediction from that sealed envelope. This card was placed here specifically for those women, for the woman who has walked decades of faithfulness and is still believing. Read it, Dorothy. Slowly, because this one was written for her. Let me now speak about the 3 watches of this season, because the Lord revealed to me today that what you have been experiencing is not random suffering without structure. It has been moving through distinct phases, each with a specific divine purpose, and understanding where you are in those phases will change everything about how you carry the days ahead. The first watch belongs to the season of stripping. This is the phase in which the Lord removes, one by one, every false support that the soul was resting its weight on that was not actually capable of holding it. It is uncomfortable, often disorienting. The woman going through the first watch often feels as though things are going wrong, when in truth, the Lord is simply clearing the ground of everything that was not supposed to be there. If this season began for you with a series of things falling apart, or ending, or revealing themselves as less than what you thought they were, that was the first watch doing its work, not punishment, preparation. The second watch belongs to the season of testing. This is where you are, right now, beloved daughter. The second watch is the phase in which what was built during the stripping is tested against resistance. The faith that grew during the disorientation is now required to hold its ground when the evidence is slow to appear. The roots that went down during the confusion are now tested by the winds of doubt and delay, and the provocations of the enemy in the form of this other woman's presence and this man's apparent hesitation. The second watch feels like the worst phase because it is the one that asks the most. But I command you to understand something crucial. It is also the shortest. The third watch comes quickly after the second, and the third watch is the one you have been praying toward. The third watch belongs to the manifestation. This is the phase the scripture declares when it says that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning of the third watch, the moment when what was decided in heaven finds its full expression in the natural world. When the man wakes up to what was always true, when the other presence loses its grip and its disguise simultaneously, when the prayer you have been praying in faith, without visible evidence, without applause, often without anyone even knowing you were praying it, receives its visible, tangible, undeniable answer. Today, the Lord told me in the courts of heaven that you are standing at the threshold between the second watch and the third. The morning is not coming. The morning is here. 3 watches, 3 phases, and the declaration that the morning is here. Dorothy, this photograph in the envelope was chosen to make that declaration visible. This is not just an image. This is your present moment, illustrated. Pull it out, hold it to this camera, and look at where, in this image, the woman is standing. Because that is exactly where you are right now. Now, I want to speak to something that has been happening in the physical world around you that you may not have fully decoded. Because the Most High communicates not only through scripture and prayer and the interior movements of your spirit, He communicates through the material world around His beloved daughters. And in this season, He has been sending you signals that were not random. The number 777 that has been appearing to you, on a receipt you were not expecting to look at, on a clock that caught your eye at a moment you weren't trying to tell the time, on an address, or a page number, or a figure in a document that crossed your path. That number carries a specific message from the Lord in this season. Completion is near. 7 is the number of the divine. 3 sevens together, in the language of heaven's arithmetic, do not mean 3 times 7. They mean the fullness of the divine converging on a single point. And that single point is your breakthrough. When you see 777, that is heaven marking the moment. That is the Most High saying, through the language of signs, we are approaching the hour of fulfillment. There's also the matter of the dreams. In recent weeks, you may have had dreams that carried a quality of reality, different from ordinary dreams. Dreams that left something behind when you woke up, not just a mood, but a knowing. A sense of having received something that did not originate in your own mind. Some of those dreams may have contained imagery that confused you. Others may have been so clear that they frightened you a little with their precision. All of them were communication, daughter. All of them were the Lord speaking in the night hours. When the conscious mind is still and the spirit is accessible in ways it sometimes is not during the busy hours of day, do not dismiss them. Write them down if you have not been doing so. Ask the Lord to clarify what He was saying, because some of what was communicated to you in those dreams carries specific instruction for how to navigate what is immediately ahead, the unexpected encounters that have been finding you. The woman in a waiting room who said something that landed with inexplicable weight. The scripture that fell open in front of you at a moment of particular need and contained precisely the sentence you needed. The song that came through your radio or your phone or someone else's speaker at a moment when you were at your lowest and carried a line that sounded like it was written for your exact situation. These are not coincidences. There is no such thing as coincidence when the God of all creation is actively supervising the details of your story. These were breadcrumbs, signs placed along the path by the one who knows every step you are going to take before you take it, to remind you that you are not walking it alone. Today, I declare over you, your spiritual senses are being heightened. What you noticed occasionally before, you will begin to notice consistently. What felt like possible coincidence before will begin to carry the unmistakable fingerprint of the divine. Because you are entering a season in which the Most High is communicating with you more directly, more frequently, and with more specificity than he has in any previous chapter of your life. Stay awake, stay attentive, stay in the posture of a woman who expects to hear from heaven, because you will. You are exactly halfway through this letter, and what comes in the second half is what the first half was building the foundation for. The next section of this transmission speaks to something that this letter has not yet addressed, something that is more personal and more interior than anything said so far. It speaks to the locked rooms inside your heart, the ones you closed after the losses you did not plan for, and what the Lord says to those rooms, what he says about whether you are ready to open them again, is the declaration that women who have stayed until this point have said changed everything for them. Do not leave at the halfway mark. The second half of this letter is where it becomes personal. Stay. 777. The divine confirmation, the mark of heaven on an ordinary moment. Dorothy, in that envelope, there is a card that carries something written long before this letter was recorded, long before today, something that was placed in this envelope, because it was known that this moment would come in this letter. Hold it up, read it, and let every person watching understand that this number appearing in their life is not random. I must speak now to your heart specifically, not your mind, not your circumstances, not the external situation with him and her and the complexity of what is happening between three people in the natural world. I want to speak to the living, beating, extraordinary, sometimes aching, always hoping organ that the Lord placed at the center of your chest and designed to be the home of love. Your heart has been through things it never planned for. There are places in it that were shaped by experiences that should never have been allowed to happen to a woman, made the way you were made. There are rooms in it that have been locked for a long time, not because you are unloving, but because you loved so fully that when what you poured it into did not hold, the loss was so severe that the only way your soul knew how to survive was to close the door to that particular room and not return to it for a while. The Lord sees every one of those locked rooms, daughter. He does not judge the locks. He does not stand at the door telling you that you should have kept it open regardless of what that cost you. He is gentle. He is patient. He is the one who was inside that room with you when the loss happened. He witnessed what it did to you. He understands. more fully than any human being could, why the door closed. And he has been waiting, not impatiently, not with frustration, but with the infinite patience of a love that has no deadline and no limit, for the season when you would be ready to open those doors again. Today, he declares, you are ready, not because the pain is completely gone, not because the fear has evaporated, not because you have arrived at some perfect state of healed wholeness that means nothing will ever hurt you again, but because you have done the work. You have walked with him through the fire. You have maintained your faith when maintaining it cost you something real. You have kept hoping when hope was expensive. And what has been built in you through all of that is a heart that is actually more capable of love now than it was before the hard seasons, more rooted, more intentional, less liable to pour itself into the wrong vessels, more discerning about what is real versus what is merely appealing. That heart is the one he commands you to bring into what is coming, not the defended version, not the braced version, not the version that decides to feel as little as possible because feeling has been associated with loss for too long. The open version, the unguarded version, the version that declares, I have survived what has come from my heart before, and it did not kill what the Lord placed in me, so I will let what he built in me breathe now. The locked rooms, the doors that closed to protect what was too precious to risk again. Dorothy. This photograph was selected for this exact moment in this letter. It was printed and placed in this envelope to make the image of what the Lord just described something you can hold in your hands. Pull it out now. Look at it. And look specifically at the light that is coming from behind that door, because that light is what has been waiting for you to be ready.
Look at the light.
I spoke earlier about the third watch and its arrival at your threshold. I want to go deeper into that now, because the Lord gave me specific detail about what the manifestation period is going to look like for you. And I want you to have this picture clearly formed in your spirit before you encounter the first signs of it appearing, so that when it begins, you recognize it for what it is and respond correctly. The shift in him will not arrive through the dramatic confrontation you may have imagined. It will not be the result of some external event that forces his hand. What is coming is an interior movement, a shift in his spirit that will change the lens through which he sees his life. He will look at the other woman one day, and the ease he associated with her presence will feel, for the first time, like something other than ease, like a ceiling, like something that has a hard limit above which it cannot grow. And in that same period, thoughts of you will carry a new quality, a depth, an almost aching recognition that what he has been allowing to be complicated deserves to be made simple, that the choice in front of him, when it is stripped of all the noise the enemy surrounded it with, is not actually complicated at all. When those moments begin, watch for his communication to change. Not dramatically at first. A word held a little longer, a question asked with more weight behind it than the surface of the question contains. A moment of eye contact, or the equivalent of it in whatever form your connection takes that carries something different from what it has carried in the recent past. These are the first signs of the third watch beginning to break through into the natural world. They are the spiritual becoming visible, and I am warning you today to be ready for them rather than surprised by them. Because a woman who is surprised by breakthrough is sometimes too stunned to step into it fully. You will not be surprised. You will be ready. What his first sign will look like, how quietly it will come. Dorothy is now reaching for the next prediction card from that sealed envelope. This text was written down before this recording. It was sealed before today, and yet it speaks precisely to the moment this letter just described. The moment his interior world begins to shift and his first signal reaches you. Hold it to the camera, Dorothy. Let them read it themselves. Now, I must address something that the Lord specifically pressed into me to deliver today. Something that speaks to the spiritual authority that belongs to you in this situation. Because one of the greatest losses of this season has been not the delay of the blessing itself, but the way the season has slowly eroded your sense of spiritual standing. The way prolonged waiting creates, in the soul of a woman of faith, a slow drift from the posture of one who expects God to move toward the posture of one who hopes he might, but has stopped being certain. That drift ends today, because I am here to remind you of what you carry. You are a daughter of the Most High, not a general category of person who has some vague relationship to a religious tradition. A daughter, specifically named, specifically covered, with a specific inheritance that was secured before the foundation of the world. And as a daughter of the King of all creation, you have access to resources in the spiritual realm that make the enemy's strategies against you look threadbare by comparison. The prayers of a daughter of the Most High carry weight in the courts of heaven that cannot be overruled by any counterpetition the enemy files. The declarations that fall from the lips of a woman who understands her authority do not float up and dissolve in the atmosphere. They land. They carry force. They produce effects in the spirit realm that then work their way into the visible world. Today, I command you to use that authority intentionally, not in anger, not in the striving mode of someone trying to force an outcome through spiritual effort, but in the calm, settled, royal posture of a woman who knows that the house belongs to her father and that she has the right to speak in it. Every day going forward, speak into this situation with your mouth, not just in your thoughts, with your actual voice, in the actual atmosphere of your actual room. Say aloud, I declare that every plan of the enemy against the divine connection prepared for my life is dismantled. I declare that clarity comes to this man with the speed of the divine and the permanence of covenant. I declare that what belongs to me in God's plan cannot be held by any unauthorized presence. And I declare that today, and every day moving forward, heaven's agenda for my love life advances without obstruction. Speak it in the morning. Speak it in the evening. Speak it on the days when nothing visible confirms it. because the most powerful spiritual declarations are the ones released in faith before the evidence appears, not in response to the evidence after it arrives. The daughter, the royal posture, the authority that does not drift and does not beg, but declares from a position of legal standing before the throne of heaven. Dorothy, the next photograph from this envelope was placed here to give that truth a face, to make the image of who you are in the courts of heaven something that you can see with your eyes and not just believe with your mind. Hold it up. This is the woman this letter has been speaking to. Let me speak now about something that concerns the community of women around you. Because your breakthrough is not an isolated event. The Most High rarely moves in the life of one of his daughters without connecting that movement to the lives of the women around her. There is a woman in your circle, perhaps a friend, perhaps a family member, perhaps someone who exists in the outer ring of your acquaintance and may not even know how close she is to what you are carrying right now, who is watching how you navigate this season. She has not said so. She may not even be fully conscious of it, but something in her has been taking note. She is in her own version of a waiting season. Her details are different from yours, but the interior shape of it is remarkably similar. And what she needs from you is not advice, not even encouragement exactly. What she needs is the testimony of a woman who stayed, who held on, who refused to let the silence of heaven become evidence of heaven's absence, who kept the flame of her faith burning through seasons when the wind was determined to extinguish it. Your faithfulness through what you have been through is not only producing breakthrough for you, it is producing proof for her. Proof that staying is worth it. Proof that the God who makes promises keeps them. Proof that a woman on the other side of 60, in Melbourne or Houston or Manchester or Mexico City or Sydney or Toronto, can still stand in faith for a love that the Most High ordained and receive it in full. When the testimony of your breakthrough finds its way to her, and it will do something in her that no sermon and no inspirational message could accomplish, because it will be lived, real, standing right in front of her as evidence. And that is the second purpose the Lord has been building toward through this season. Not only your restoration, but the hope your restoration will carry into the lives of every woman who hears it. You are not only waiting for your breakthrough, daughter. You are becoming the living proof that breakthrough is possible for every woman like you who is still waiting. That is a calling. That is an assignment. That is the weight of purpose that has been resting on this season without you fully knowing it. And now, you know. I want to give you something practical, something you can carry into the hours and days ahead as a weapon. Because the Lord knows that revelation without practical application remains in the dimension of ideas and never fully lands in the dimension of changed lives. So here is what He gave me for you today. Begin each morning with what I am calling the 7 declarations. 7 statements that you speak aloud before the day takes hold of your attention. 7 anchors that you drive into the ground of your spirit before the winds of circumstance have a chance to uproot what was planted the night before in the quiet hours of prayer. Speak them slowly. Let each one settle before you move to the next. And do not skip this practice on the mornings when the circumstance feels unchanged and the declarations feel like they might be empty. Especially on those mornings. Say them twice. Say them until you feel something shift in the atmosphere of your room. And it will shift. The first declaration: I am the chosen daughter of the Most High, and what He has authored for my life is inviolable. The second: the divine connection prepared for me is protected by the armies of heaven and cannot be permanently stolen by any unauthorized presence. The third: my waiting has not been wasted. Every single day of it has been building something in me that the fulfillment requires. The fourth: I declare clarity over the man who carries my name in his spirit. The fog of the enemy dissolves today. The fifth: I declare the exposure of everything counterfeit that has positioned itself in his life without divine assignment. The sixth: I receive my breakthrough not as a distant hope, but as a present spiritual reality. I live from the victory, not toward it. The seventh: I will not give up, not today, not tomorrow, not ever, because the God who promised is faithful, and faithfulness does not expire. 7 declarations, 7 mornings, then keep going. Make them the first words that shape your day, and watch how your days begin to change, shape in response. 3/4 of this letter have now been delivered. What comes next is the section that was withheld until now, intentionally. Because what Michael is about to do in the next portion of this transmission is something that cannot be undone once it is done. He is going to turn away from you and directly address the adversary who has been operating against your divine connection. He is going to speak to him by name. He is going to issue a command that carries legal and binding authority in the spiritual realm. And when that command is released, the atmosphere around your situation will shift. Women who have watched this letter and stayed until this point have described feeling something physically lift in their chest at the moment this declaration is released. Do not miss it. Do not leave now. The most authoritative moment in this entire transmission is seconds away. Stay. 7 declarations, 7 mornings, and then never stopping. Dorothy is now reaching for the next prediction card from that sealed envelope, and this one was placed here because what happens after the declarations are spoken needed to be declared in advance. Before the declarations were ever delivered, before this woman ever started speaking them. This card says something about the enemy that he cannot argue with. Hold it up, Dorothy. I must now address the enemy directly, not because he deserves my attention, but because he has been operating in this situation with a boldness that requires a response from a position of authority. And today, I carry that authority directly from the throne room of the Most High. Adversary. You heard what was decreed today in the courts of heaven concerning this woman and the divine narrative over her life. You were not present in the throne room, but you are fully aware of what was decided. You have been operating in this situation on borrowed time. the strategy you deployed through the presence of the other woman has reached the limit of what the Most High will permit it to accomplish. The fog machine you built around this man's discernment is being dismantled. The hooks of confusion you embedded in his decision-making are being removed by the hand of the one who is sovereign over every situation in which you have ever attempted to interfere. Every chain you wove, every whisper you planted, every manufactured alternative you placed in the path of what heaven ordained is being undone, now, in this moment, by the authority of the name that is above every name. You are commanded to release your hold on this man's clarity. You are commanded to cease your operations against this woman's peace. You are commanded to stand down from every assignment against this divine connection. And you have no appeal available against this command, because it was issued from the throne of the Most High himself. And what he decrees, you have no power to override. Be gone from this narrative. Be gone from this relationship. Be gone from this woman's nights. Your season of operation in this territory is over. Daughter, what you just witnessed is not metaphor. It is not poetic language dressed up as spiritual authority. That is an actual, legal, binding declaration in the spiritual realm, released with the full weight of the commission I was given today. The atmosphere around your situation has just changed. Something was lifted off of it in this moment. You may feel it in your spirit as you receive these words. A lightening, a subtle but real shift in the pressure you have been feeling. That is real. That is the effect of spiritual authority exercised in full confidence in the one who granted it. And it will produce tangible results in the natural world in the days ahead. Today is a day for release, not releasing the hope or releasing the faith or releasing the connection you carry in your heart, but releasing the grip you have been keeping on the how and the when and the through what specific mechanism the breakthrough will arrive. That grip, that determined effort to remain in control of the details of your own answered prayer, is something the Lord has been patiently waiting for you to open your hand around, because he cannot fully pour what he has prepared into a hand that is already clenched around its own plan for how things should go. So, today, as a deliberate and specific act of faith and surrender, I am calling you to pray one prayer, not the long, detailed, circumstances outlining, specific request cataloging kind of prayer that has been your most frequent mode of communication about this situation. Instead, pray this: Lord, I release the how into your hands. I release the when. I release the method. I release the outcome from my grip, and I place it into the custody of one whose wisdom exceeds mine so completely that my best plan for this situation is as a crayon drawing compared to the blueprint you hold. I trust you, not because trusting feels easy right now, but because you have never once been unfaithful to me, even when I could not see what you were doing. I trust you, and I receive whatever you bring, however you choose to bring it, in whatever timing is truly perfect, which I trust is yours and not mine. Say that prayer today. Mean it as much as you can. And then, in the most literal sense, let go. And let the God who has never dropped anything he holds carry this the rest of the way home. Something beautiful is about to happen, daughter. And I want to describe it to you the way I see it from my position, so that when it arrives, you will recognize it and be able to fully inhabit it, rather than standing slightly outside of it in disbelief. There will come a morning, not distant, not abstract, a specific, actual, coming morning when you wake up and something is different. You will not be able to name it precisely at first. It will register as a lightness in your chest, where the heaviness has lived for so long that you had almost forgotten what its absence felt like. The coffee will taste more like what it is supposed to taste like. The light through your window will register as something closer to beautiful than it has in a while. And in your spirit, you will carry a knowing that something has moved, not a wishful knowing, the particular, specific, different from ordinary kind of knowing that is the fingerprint of the Most High on an interior experience. That morning will be followed by days in which things begin to appear in the natural world that confirm what your spirit already received. A conversation will happen. Something will be said or unsaid in a meaningful way, or done, or revealed. The specific details I am not authorized to give you, because the Lord preserves those as the pleasure of the encounter itself, the specifics that make the story yours, rather than a template that was scripted in advance. But the character of what happens will be unmistakable. It will carry the hallmarks of divine choreography. It will be the kind of thing that you will later describe to your daughter or your friend or the woman who needed your testimony. And you will say, only God could have arranged it exactly like that. That is what is coming. That is what all of this has been building toward. And you are this close. Because the traveler who is 1 mile from the destination needs to know they are 1 mile away. Not to make them complacent, but to keep them from making the irreversible decision to turn back when they are already this close. Do not turn back, daughter. The destination is visible on the horizon of the spiritual realm. The armies of heaven are already positioned around it. Your name is on what is waiting there. And the God who brought you every mile of this road will carry you the remaining distance without losing a single thing he has promised you. As this message moves toward its close, I want to speak one last time about love, not as concept, not as spiritual category, but as the lived, daily, ordinary, and extraordinary thing that the Most High designed it to be. Because the love that is coming toward you is not the love of fairy stories, or the love of performance, or the love of two people showing each other only their best and most curated versions of themselves. It is the love of two people who have both been through the fire, who have both sat in confusion and emerged with something real, who both carry the specific gravity of a spirit that has been refined, and who recognize that gravity in each other the way a musician recognizes the right note, not because it sounds louder, but because it resonates deeper. That love is practical. It is grocery lists and difficult conversations and choosing each other on the days when choosing feels like work. It is prayer together in the morning, or just beside each other in the quiet, which is its own kind of prayer. It is laughing at things that no one else would find funny, because only the two of you know the reference. It is being seen, completely, truly, in the fullness of who you are, including the parts that the world has never seen, and being chosen anyway, especially anyway, because the full sight of who you are does not diminish what is felt. It deepens it. That is what the Lord has been building toward for you. That is the love He had in mind when He chose you before the beginning of time and wove a companion into the fabric of your story. Not a perfect man, not a man without his own history of fire and confusion and chapter by chapter becoming, but the right man, the one whose particular history, with all of its complexity, makes him the specific match for the particular woman the Lord has been building in you through every chapter of your own becoming. He is worth the wait, daughter, not because he is perfect, but because what the Most High designed between your two spirits is worth every day of the season you have walked through to be ready for it. And you will know that. You will know it the moment you step fully into what is coming. Every waiting day will retroactively make complete sense in the light of what you receive. And you will not look back and wish you had rushed it. You will look back and see the hand of a God who was loving you carefully the whole time. This is the final photograph from the envelope, the last one that was printed, sealed, and placed inside before this day began. This image was chosen to show you what the Lord described just now: the arrival, the restoration, the two people standing on the other side of every season they walked through to get there, with heaven watching over them. Dorothy, hold this one up last. Hold it steady, because what is in this photograph is what this entire letter was building toward. Beloved daughter, I am approaching the final portion of what I was sent today to deliver, and I want to honor this moment with the full weight of what it carries. You came to this message with something on your heart. You may not have known when you found it that what you were really doing was answering a summons, because the Lord placed this message in your path today. He arranged the specific sequence of events that led your eyes here to this particular channel, this particular video, this particular moment, with the precision of a God who never wastes a placement. You were summoned, and you answered the summons by staying, by receiving, by not scrolling away when the enemy whispered that this was not for you, or that you had heard versions of this before, or that hope was a luxury you could no longer afford. You answered the summons, and in doing so, you demonstrated the exact quality of faith that the Lord has been cultivating in you through this season. The faith that shows up even when it is not certain what it is showing up for. The faith that stays even when staying has not yet produced the visible result it was staying for. The faith that receives, even when the hands are trembling a little from having been empty for a while. That faith is not weakness dressed in spiritual language. That faith is the evidence of transformation. That faith is the gold that came out of the furnace, and the Lord looks at it today and declares, "It is enough. You are enough. What has been prepared in you through this season is sufficient for what is coming. You do not need another month of refining. You do not need another chapter of the hard lesson before you are ready. You are ready. The declaration of the Lord over your life today, sealed in the courts of heaven before this morning began, is this: restoration. In every dimension where loss had the final word, restoration. In every chamber of your heart where absence took up residence, restoration. In the specific situation with this man and this divine connection and this season of complication that the enemy inserted, restoration. What was delayed, arriving. What was threatened, secured. What was doubted, confirmed. What was stolen, returned. And what was always yours, coming home. Before I release you, I'm going to speak a final blessing over your life, not as a ritual, as an actual, authoritative, spiritually binding declaration released over the specific woman whose eyes are on these words right now. I bless your waiting season with meaning retroactively. Every day that felt purposeless is hereby consecrated as preparation. I bless your heart with the courage to remain open where it has learned to be guarded. I bless your spirit with heightened sensitivity to recognize the fingerprints of the divine in the coming days. I bless your mouth with the authority to speak declarations over your situation that shift the spiritual atmosphere around you. I bless your mornings with the lightness that is coming. I bless your nights with peace that passes the understanding of what circumstances alone could ever produce. I bless the man who carries your name in his spirit with clarity that cannot be clouded. I bless him with the courage that the awakening will require when it comes. I bless him with the sight to recognize what is real versus what is manufactured in his life. I bless him with the specific moment of divine confrontation with truth that moves him from confusion to certainty, from circling to landing, from divided to whole. I bless this connection with the covering of heaven. I declare over it that no unauthorized presence has permanent legal standing to obstruct it. I declare the dismantling of every work of the adversary against it. I declare that what the Most High wrote will be what the natural world reflects. And I declare the speed and the thoroughness and the beautiful specificity of a God who does not do things halfway. You are loved, daughter, comprehensively, specifically, unconditionally, and actively, not loved in the passive sense of a feeling held at a distance. Loved in the relentless sense of a God who dispatches his angel to cross the boundary between the spiritual and the natural today, on a morning that only appeared ordinary from the outside, to make absolutely certain that you know it. I am Michael. I was sent today from the throne of the Most High with a sealed letter for a specific woman. You are her. The seal has been broken. The letter has been delivered. And what was written in heaven concerning your life has now been spoken into the natural world with full authority. The decree is released. The armies are positioned. The third watch is breaking. And you, beloved daughter, are standing at the threshold of the most beautiful chapter you have ever lived. Step through. It was written for you. Amen.
7 photographs, 6 written predictions, every one of them printed before this recording was made, every one of them sealed inside that envelope before this day began, and every single one of them spoke directly to what that letter said. If that landed in your spirit as something more than coincidence, I want you to do one thing right now before you do anything else, before you close this window, before you scroll to something else. I want you to type Amen 777 in the comments below this video, not as a formula, as a declaration, as the sound of a woman saying out loud, even if only in text on a screen. I receive this. I believe what was spoken over my life today. I will not turn back. And if you are watching this on a channel you have not yet subscribed to, please please do that right now. This channel, Letters from Archangel Michael, exists for one reason: to make sure that the woman who needs the word of heaven for her specific season receives it. These letters do not come out on a random schedule. They come out when the Lord commissions them, which means if you are subscribed with your notifications on, the next time a message is sealed and sent through this channel, it will find you. And that next message may be the one that carries the specific word for the next phase of what you are walking through. What was placed in that envelope before this day began was placed there because what the Lord has written for your life is real. It is specific. It has a face and a future and a testimony attached to it. And the woman who stays, the woman who receives, the woman who speaks her declarations even when nothing yet looks different, is the woman who will one day hold her own photograph and say, only God could have written it like this. The letter has been delivered. The seal has been broken. Go now and walk accordingly.